Hello and welcome once again to Sportstar Extras. I am Ayan Acharya and we are here to preview England's three-match test series against Pakistan starting on August 5, having beaten West Indies 2-1 to retain the Wisden Trophy. Joe Root and his men will now turn their attention to an opponent that can perhaps be best described as volatile, Pakistan. So to talk more about it, we have joining us from Bangalore, Ashwin Achal. Hi Ashwin.
Hi, Ayan. Nice to be back on the show.
Yes, feels great. Right. So, Ashwin, quite the matchup we have on our hands. On one side, you have a battle-hardened, perhaps a little fatigued England, and on the other, you have a sprightly, fresh, but maybe a little rusty Pakistan. So, who do you reckon will start as favourites when ball one gets underway on Wednesday?
Without a doubt, England favourites. And I mean, you just have to look at the way they played against West Indies, 2-1 win. And it's going to be England's seam bowlers who are going to do the trick again. World-class seamers there. We've discussed them time and again. Broad, Archer, Anderson and Wokes, all match winners. They did the trick against West Indies, and I see no reason why they won't be effective against Pakistan as well. So England, clear favourites. I would say they could even whitewash him 3-0 if things go well for England.
Yeah, right. I think Pakistan might find that a little too ambitious, but well, let's start with, since you've mentioned England's fast bowling, let's start with them. We saw in the third test match in Manchester against West Indies, they played four fast bowlers in Chris Wokes, Jofra Archer, Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson. Of course, that was because Ben Stokes had picked up a niggle and couldn't bowl. It looks more and more likely at the moment that he may not be able to roll his arm once again in the first test. So how and that will have an impact, of course, on the playing 11 of England. So what's your prediction? Do you think it's going to be a three-man pace attack or a four-man pace attack?
I think four-man pace attack even without Stokes. That is what the England went in, at least in the third test of the West Indies series, and it proved to be very effective. I don't think they even missed Stokes as a bowler in that match. So, of course, Stokes is likely to play as a pure batsman, even if he's not able to bowl. So I honestly don't think England will be too worried about losing Stokes as a bowler because they have four other match winners who can do the trick. So not that much of a big blow for England.
Right, but just playing devil's advocate here. Let's say Stokes does end up bowling, in which case England have the option of that extra, seaming all rounder. So they might then go for a three-man pace attack, allowing someone like Zach Crawley to come back into the squad and bat at number 3. So if it is a three-man pace attack, then you'd imagine, given the way both Stuart Broad and Chris Wokes bowled in the last Test match against West Indies, they sort of picked themselves, which makes it a toss-up between Jofra Archer and Jimmy Anderson. So if you were Joe Root, who would you pick?
I'd pick Archer over Wokes, simply because Archer offers something that the other fast bowlers don't, and that is just raw pace, bounce, and that surprise element. Whereas Wokes is in the Broad and Anderson sort of mold, in the sense that he gets the ball to move primarily away from the batsman, uses the seam and so on, which they already have in plenty in Broad and Anderson. Just for his match-winning capabilities, I'll take Archer over Wokes.
So you would go with Broad, Anderson, Archer, or would you go with Broad, Archer, and Chris Wokes?
No, I'd go Broad, Anderson, and Archer.
Right. Anderson is, of course, 11 shy of 600 Test wickets. So that's another record that could be breached over the course of this three-match Test series. They just keep them rolling out, don't they? The English fast bowlers, both Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, to go on for as long as they have, being fast bowlers. Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, they've been playing for donkey's years now and still going strong. I mean, I think this is something that is new to cricket or any international sport. Usually in the past, especially for fast bowlers, once they hit 30, they sort of on their way out and they retire with injuries. But now with injury management and medical science being as advanced as it is, you can expect Broad and Anderson to play for another 3 to 4 years even.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Joe Root and the English management would love that. But well, now moving on, since we're talking about fast bowling and since it's Pakistan, I mean, they themselves offer a very varied attack, not just in the pace department, but in, with the spinners as well. So let's start with the fast bowlers. A very exciting palette of quicks there. You've got a youngster, Naseem Shah, who picked up a hat trick at the age of 16. You've got Shaheen Shah Afridi. You've got Wahab Riaz, who of course hasn't been picked for this test match, and you have got uh, what you would call an old-fashioned, fast bowler in Mohammad Abbas. So, your thoughts on the Pakistan attack?
First things first, they are certainly uh, a few notches better than the West Indies pace attack.
Absolutely.
So the England batsmen, at a minimum, will be faced with a bigger test than they were against West Indies.
Correct.
Afridi, I think he's the leader of the attack, the most consistent in terms of wicket-taking abilities, bowling in the right areas. I mean, he's not an out-and-out fast bowler. He relies on bowling the good lengths, which is so crucial in England.
Yeah.
Naseem Shah, out-and-out pace,
Hmm.
just raw pace. It will be interesting to see if he gets carried away in these conditions and tries to bowl too
Correct.
short and
Yeah.
tries to be too
Yeah.
intimidating.
Yeah.
The old adage still applies. When in England, keep it full. So I'm sure the coaches, Misbah and others, are in his ear telling him to just keep it full, move it in and out. Then
Yeah.
you also have spinner Yasir Shah, leg spinner,
Right.
experienced,
Yeah.
wily old campaigner. He can do
Hmm.
his bit. Yeah, so definitely. And you also have a young, exciting pacer, Suhail Khan, who's been taking
Yeah.
lots of wickets in the warm-up
Correct.
matches. So yeah, definitely a much better bowling attack than the West Indies.
Yeah, and not to forget Pakistan's, the think tank. I mean, and the mentors they have around them. It's so good to draw from the experience of Misbah-ul Haq, their head coach. You have got someone like Waqar Yunus, who himself has a very, very good record in England. Of course, the two Ws, Wasim and Waqar, shared 170, 107, beg your pardon, 107 wickets between them at under 30. So it's great to be able to have someone like Waqar, especially when you have youngsters like Shaheen Shah and Naseem in your ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Waqar, Ayan, I mean, I think he still gives English batsmen of the 90s nightmares. So if you remember the early 1991-92 tour, he was the one who introduced the art of reverse swing in England along with Wasim Akram. They just, come in the second or third spell. England, every single match, 100 for no loss, 100 for two, and then 180 all out. So, I
Yeah,
mean, what better mentor do you need in England than Waqar Yunus?
correct. Yeah, speaking of records, Pakistan themselves have a lot of inspiration to draw from their last two visits here. The last two series in 2016 and 2018, on both occasions, they managed to draw the series. So their record in the last six test matches stands at played six, won three, lost three. So you would imagine they would be any day a sterner challenge than the West Indies.
Sterner challenge, yes, but we should also acknowledge that this is almost a different team, Pakistan team, compared
Yeah,
to the one that got success. I mean, the two draws in the previous two series, almost completely different.
yeah,
I am not very convinced about the Pakistan batting, especially since they're going up against
true.
world-class seam bowling. I know
Yeah,
they're heavily dependent on Babar Azam and captain Azhar Ali, but I'm not sure if just these two would be enough. I mean, the openers, opening batsmen, they don't really inspire too much confidence. I think it's going to be a case of just like it happened with the West Indies bowlers doing really well and then the batsmen letting them down. I see a similar script playing out here with Pakistan. A world-class fast bowling attack, no doubt, but batting is suspect.
right. So in many ways, it's going to be Pakistan's bowling versus England's batting. You'd imagine.
Yes, in that way, I think England little more sturdy with their batting.
Yeah,
We've seen Pope is doing well, Root is doing well, Sibley got a century, Burns is also fairly steady. So they have some test quality batting there. Whereas, like you said at the top of the show, I think Pakistan is all ups and downs all over the
yeah,
place, very volatile. You couldn't
yeah.
pick one or two to bat for your life, as they say.
Right, right. But yeah, speaking of sturdy, what we did witness, of course, over the course of the series, they did get better. But we witnessed that England were slow starters in that first Test match against West Indies. One day, the top order looked a bit wobbly. Of course, Joe Root wasn't around, but there's still this notion that the batting depends heavily on Joe Root in the middle order and someone like Ben Stokes lower down in lower middle order. So, do you imagine the fact that England tend to be a bit slow starting off could play to Pakistan's advantage if they get early wickets?
Yeah, I think the England team will recognize the fact that they have lost the first test in three-match
Yeah,
series quite
correct.
often, far too often. I
Mm,
think, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a particularly worrying factor because, especially now that they have won the last two test matches,
yeah,
it is Pakistan who's making a fresh start, whereas England is already in the flow. So I don't
correct.
see that as much of a problem for England in this first test.
True. Now, before we wrap up, what are you expecting out of this series? Because we saw cricket sort of coming back on its feet with the England West Indies series. What are your expectations from this three-match series, Ashwin?
I expect all the players and officials to follow the corona-related guidelines strictly. Ayan, we had one
Yeah,
slight problem with Archer in the previous series. Of course, he paid the price and so on. I think now there will be no excuses and no leniency shown to players and officials who don't follow the rules on the field. Ayan, I got to be honest. I know that Pakistan have done well in the last two tours here, but I just don't see their batting standing up to this England seam bowling.
right.
And this is not a knock on Pakistan's batting. I don't see any team standing up to this England seam bowling in English conditions. I just don't see anybody scoring runs against these four. I just don't.
Yeah, that we will see how day one unfolds when the first test gets underway at Old Trafford. After that, the two teams will move to Southampton at the where they will play the next two games at the Aegis Bowl. Thank you so much, Ashwin, for joining us. We will be
And
back with.
before we go away, I have a little tip, a small prediction there, which I think would
Yeah,
come
sure.
through the course of the
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
I see several drop catches from Pakistan in the slip
That's
squad and
harsh.
right through the series. I do,
That's harsh.
Ayan, because we got to say it like it is. They're not the best catching or fielding team in the world. We keep seeing this, and it is strange because they seem to have gotten worse in the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, some of the fielding and catching has been quite horrible, and we know that England is all about slip catching. Especially, you
Yeah,
got to get those hands really warm really early, get them out of the pocket and warm them up quickly because
yeah.
those balls are coming at you at the slip
Hmm.
cordon. And I mean, the same holds good for India. Subcontinent teams, they don't have the best slip fielders right now, and I see a lot of catches going down in the slip cordons from Pakistan.
Right. Well, since you are saying that and we are predicting at the moment, I'm calling it, and this is a very brave call, I'm calling it 1-0 series win for Pakistan. I see the first two test
Wow.
matches getting drawn, and the third one, Pakistan winning narrowly. So, yeah, I mean, let's see. Let's see. I mean,
um,
why not?
I'm going to hold
How
you
great
to it,
would
and I'm going to hold you to it when we do the series wrap up.
I'm sure Pakistan won't disappoint me. Hopefully they won't. But how great would it be if they do manage to win a series in England? I mean, that would be just massive for Pakistan cricket, of course, and world cricket in
Given
general. I mean,
Yeah, I think given the form that England is
yeah,
in, if Pakistan manages to get a series victory, it will be an incredible achievement.
yeah, correct.
Incredible achievement. And I think, like Shahid Afridi said, if even if they manage to draw the series, it
Yeah,
will count as a
yeah,
win. No doubt about it.
absolutely. Right. So let's see how the action gets underway and whose prediction comes true. We'll keep an eye on the slip cordon tomorrow. Both slip cordons, not just Pakistan, and see how many catches they hold on to as and when the ball gets their way. But yeah, that will be all from our side. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be joining you after the day's play gets over on Wednesday with our analysis. That will be all. Thank you so much.